All right. Well, welcome back to the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program's certification classes. We're glad to see everybody here that could make it tonight. Looks like we got a large room full of people. So, once again, we're in the Peaceful Solution Intermediate Character Unit. And we'll be starting tonight. Well, let's go ahead and turn to page LP1F. LP1F, it's the lesson plan. Let's go ahead and review the lesson plan. Remember, we are teachers, and so you'll need to have your lesson lined out beforehand. And this lesson plan will guide you through the lesson, making sure that the points that need to be accented or accentuated, those points are there for you to look at. Okay, so taking a look at procedure number 5, we're still in procedure 5, and about halfway down, a little over halfway down, we've already done a lot of this, but explain to students that most people have both negative and positive character, and we're fixing to go into that section of the book a little bit. However, the key to being a person of integrity, and we went through this last week, or the last class that is to accentuate their positive traits while first acknowledge it, know that you've got it, and then eliminating the negative traits. First acknowledging that you have these negative traits, which all of us do have some of it still, and you work on eliminating it. It says to help students to realize that a positive moral character is advantageous and should be recognized by everyone as beneficial. Now, if we can turn to page 21. Now, the last class we had, it was pretty well covered what is a negative character, and some of the negative character traits are listed there on page 19 and 20, and I thought it was covered very well, actually, by the two teachers that were doing this last class. So today, let's take a look at page 21, which is don't accentuate the negative. Now, these words sometimes, just like accentuate, you might want to check the glossary in the Peaceful Solution books before starting a class, because really, all in all, I don't know if I've ever been in any class where everybody understood every word that was ever used. There's always going to be somebody out there that when you hit them with certain words, they really don't know what it is, and it just kind of goes over their head. Sometimes ourselves in reading, we need to slow down a little bit and check out some of the words that we think we know what they mean. We might want to check and make sure. But keep in mind that nobody's character is completely negative and devoid of all positive character traits. That's right. Remember, we talked about most people have a combination of positive and negative character traits at this time. Yet most people do have some negative traits that they need to eliminate from their character. For example, someone can be a compassionate person, always looking for ways to help others, but, they're usually late for functions and events. Or, you can be an honest person, but very impatient. So, do these examples remind you of anyone you know? Possibly even yourself? You got to take a look at these things. And all of us are a little bit different. Where somebody might be impatient, and then when you're around that person, you've got to be patient in dealing with that person. But at the same time, they might be very responsible in other areas. They might be like this, gives the example of being compassionate. So everybody's got different things going on within themselves. No two people are exactly alike. So, not accentuating negative character traits means first realizing that there are some aspects of your character that need changing. Yeah, that's kind of a tough part sometimes, is realizing the things that do need changing in your life. And we have some activities in the book, actually, that can help you get there and look at it, face to face with yourself, like looking in the mirror and actually realizing that, okay, I've got this problem. I need to go ahead and work on this thing. So first, realizing that there are some aspects of your character that need changing, and then focusing on doing just the opposite of the behavior that you want to change. And how do you do this? Setting your mind in advance. Setting your mind in advance to get away from the negative character, to do this very thing, doing the opposite of the behavior that you want to change. For example, if you have difficulty being on time, you might try going to bed earlier, setting your alarm clock for half an hour earlier than you normally wake up. You might even borrow a few books from the library on time management. The point is to focus on improving your character by eliminating the negative and accentuating the positive. Now, when you're going through the lessons with students, you're going to have different time frames that you work with. Sometimes you'll have a lot of time. Sometimes you'll have a very short period of time to work with them. So knowing in advance how much time you have will allow you to prepare, possibly even having a book on time management, or a few quotes from a book on time management. Of course, the Peaceful Solution itself has a portion that talks about time management and being responsible. But the point is to focus on improving your character by eliminating that negative and accentuating that positive. And right there, accentuate means to emphasize. Also, if you want to turn to page 169, if you have your books with you, there's no better place to get the definition of a word than from the Peaceful Solution, or how it's used. These are definitions that are taken from the American Heritage Dictionary, and this is how it's used in the Peaceful Solution. Accentuate is to stress or emphasize, to intensify. And I think during the last couple classes we heard a couple other definitions of it. I mean, just additions to it. Not that it was wrong or anything like that. Let's go on back to LP1F. Now, it says to have the students do the exercise on page 22 and encourage the students to use this activity as a guide for changing unwanted behaviors. So let's go ahead and look at page 22. And it says on the spaces below to write down 5 things on the left that you want to improve about your character, and on the right side write down what changes you will need to make in order to successfully change those negative traits into positive ones. What I'd like to change? Well, I'd like to stop wasting time. As an example, what can I do to change? Well, I could throw away the TV. I can make sure that the books that I want to study are laying there for me when I come into my dwelling, so that, right there and ready for me to go. Here's an example right here. It says I want to stop being aggressive. And so what can I do to change? Well, I will practice self-control. I'll be patient with others. Not touch something without permission or speak harshly. So there's a way right there to work on stopping being aggressive. So you definitely won't want to be practicing any of that negative trait of being aggressive. You'll do just the opposite, which is what it says right there. I'll practice self-control. I'll be patient with others. I won't touch things without permission. So that's doing just the opposite of what it is to try to change it. Okay. Let's go back to LP1F here. And by the way, you can do this. That can be assigned as homework, and you can do that. And really take a look at it. Be honest with yourself when you do this. Let's go back to LP1F, which is in the teacher's manual. Now, in Procedure 7, it says to inform students that now that they understand what character is and how it's developed, they can compare character to personality. It says to guide the class discussion by asking students the following question: what qualities do you see in others that would encourage you to get to know that person? And of course the answers are going to vary. And continuing on, it says emphasize that these are all personality traits, which we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. Have students turn to pages 23 through 24 in their handbooks and read What is Personality, and allow students time to identify personality traits and record their answers in the spaces provided. Again, you know, a more personalized class, a much smaller class, you would have time to actually do this and work with the individuals. In bigger classes like this, you might have to assign it as homework. Okay, so we're going to turn to page 23. It's talking about what is personality, but you know, back in procedure number 7, though, it says, now that you understand what character is. So before we actually read that, the what is personality, I know we want to get there, but before we read that, I'd like to just look at a couple things real quick. In fact, you know, if we go back to page 3, let's go on back to page 3 real quick. And it says more than meets the eye. And it's talking about, it's an introduction to character. And if you look about halfway down, or the beginning of the second paragraph, it says everyone has character. Now, character is what helps each and every person to determine what is right and wrong. Now, you're going to hear character described, you know, slightly different throughout the book. It's the same, but yet it's said a different way. Just like this says, character is what helps each and every person to determine what is right and wrong, and that is true. If you go ahead and turn to page 6, turn to page 6, well, you understand also that values, there's so many things that come into play with your character, and another one of those things is values. And values are what you believe in or feel strongly about, and they also play that key role in developing your character. Continuing on, go ahead and turn to page 8, and we're talking about morals. We're talking about these rules, and you know, the question is, what do they have to do with my character? Well, they have a lot to do with your character. These morals are like the line that separates right from wrong. And there's different categories of morals. And you've got to have all of this to have a positive character. So we need to go back and look at everything that we've already studied up till now and really understand what character is. Then, we're going to do this right now, though, but page 23, what is personality? Now, what's coming up also is going to be a comparison of character and personality because, you know, a lot of people really don't know the difference. It's amazing how many people don't. In all the schools that we've been in, the Peaceful Solution team that has been in, you know, you ask that question, and sometimes you get a pretty solid answer back on it, but many times, you know, no one knows the difference between the personality and character. And that's why a lot of con men, for instance, are able to progress with their cons, is because they have a personality that really does win people over, but their character deep down inside is rotten. So let's take a look at personality. Now, because it's so easy to confuse personality and character, it's important to explore what is meant by personality. Personality is made up of behavioral traits that are unique to each individual person, thus, you know, personality. Personality is the process. Now, you might want to, you know, highlight this. Personality is the process that you choose in how you govern your feelings, attitudes, and preferences. Now, this is a pretty, it kind of entails everything in it, but this definition itself, personality is the process you choose in how you govern your feelings, your attitudes, and your preferences. And for an example, here in the book, it says when you first meet someone, you notice if they smile when they say hello. You might also notice if they're humorous, serious, outgoing, or shy. Now, before we move on, I do want to say something about that. What you've got to understand is sometimes, because someone is outgoing and they seem like a, nice person, right? And they're winning you over with their personality, but you might have somebody else that you run into that doesn't quite have that outgoing personality, that bubbly personality. And they might be a little more on the quiet side, possibly even what you might consider rude. And what we have to understand is, before we make a decision on that person, we have to find out about their character, not just their personality. Personality is just what brings people together. You might not like being around the rude person, so you seek people that are more outgoing and so forth, and like yourself. And that's what personality does. Things would be boring without personality. If everybody was exactly the same, it would be awful boring. We would all be wearing the same clothes right now. We would have the same hairstyles. We would have the same color masks on. We would be talking the same. We would make the same mannerisms and movements and so forth. It would be very boring, life would be. And this is why we have personality. So other aspects of our personality include such things as your preference for foods, colors, and hobbies. Now, this is another area that people draw together on. You like certain types of foods. You like Mexican food. This person that you met and have been getting along with and everything, or that you work with, they like Mexican food too. So you have something in common and you talk about it, that you like tacos better than the enchiladas or whatever. And that's just an example. Those are some of the things that I like myself, but do you eat things for taste only, or do you choose foods that are healthy? Do you like loud, bright colors, or do you like quiet, softer, more conservative colors? Do you choose hobbies for fun only, or do you choose them for exercise or education? Now, even people that have rotten character, even people that have very negative character, remember, not everybody is devoid of all positive character. We have a little bit of both in us. Hopefully, more of the positive than the negative. But even the people that have negative character, and it just goes to the core, they still can have some character traits that they might be likable to some degree. They might be one of those people that like the same food that you like, and so forth and so on. You might find yourself, getting to know the person, but when we're dealing with friends and coworkers and so forth, when we're getting a little closer to somebody, we have to keep our eye out for their character. We got to find out what their character is about. So don't let personality fool you or suck you into making a wrong decision. Most people choose their friends based upon compatible personalities. In other words, during the course of a casual conversation, two people discover that they both have the same goals. Now, these shared likes, and we're talking about, you could be talking about goals and character too, but, possibly as an example, they're interested in drones, for instance, and possibly you find out that the person you're talking to is trying to get this certain camera, that has thermal imaging or something, and you've been thinking about that yourself, and you get really interested in talking about it and so forth, so that's one type of goal. But these shared likes will usually motivate them to get to know each other better. Hopefully you become friends with somebody that has a goal of developing their positive character and getting rid of the negative character that they have. So the following is a list of common personality traits. Circle the ones that best describe you and put a check next to the personality traits you look for in others. Again, this is something that you can do. I mean, you're looking at it right now. If you see something that describes you, you could go ahead and put a check next to it, or go ahead and circle it, And if you're while you're looking at it, check it off. You see something with the personality traits you look for in others. But this is really something that you should take some time with, just like the previous activity. You'll want to take it and use it as homework, for instance. Let's go ahead and turn over to page 24. And it says, keep in mind that what you do in your spare time, such as hobbies, are also part of your personality. On the lines below, list at least 3 things that you like to do. Goes on down, it says, write 3 hobbies that you do not do but admire in others. Possibly things you just never decided to do yourself, but you see others, doing it, and you might want to find out more about it and have something to talk about. What can you conclude? Do you value the same personality traits in others that you have, or do people with opposite likes and dislikes appeal to you? Record your findings on the lines below. And it is interesting that sometimes people that seem different with their personalities, sometimes they do kind of, attract, if you will, appeal to each other. Now, this next page, page 25, character versus personality. Getting to know the difference between that character and personality is a very interesting thing. It's like there's so many things, just like the list before that had some common personality traits listed in there. When you get a list that asks you to pick out, the ones that are character traits as compared to the ones that are personality traits, and you go through that list, you'll find yourself probably a few times thinking, well, wait a minute, couldn't that be, you might even think it could be both. It's so close, it's a fine line. But there is a definition. There is a defined line between the character and personality. So keep that in mind. In fact, it's important to distinguish between an appealing personality and a positive character. Keep in mind that personality is what we notice right away when we meet someone. Now, I have that underlined because that's a simple way to say it where people can really understand that that's what they see immediately. You're not going to see their character right away. You're going to see their personality. So keep in mind that personality is what we notice right away when we meet someone. It's how we present ourselves to others. And in fact, if we meet someone who appeals to us, after only one conversation, we think to ourselves, oh, he or she seems like a nice person. And that's how people use their personality to persuade people. That's how salespeople, they use their personality to persuade people to buy. Just about any walk of life, people use their personalities to persuade people to do what they would like them to do or what they perceive that person should be doing. They use their personalities to get through to people. Character, on the other hand, is what helps you to determine what is right and wrong. And I would underline or highlight that. Character, on the other hand, is what helps you to determine what is right and wrong. Yeah, your joyful, bubbly personality isn't going to help you a bit when it comes to what's right or wrong. If you see the money laying there, and you're all, hey, look at that, some money, let's get it and go. Well, you might be bubbly and everything, but you just made a wrong choice. So, character defines the way you treat yourself and the way you treat others. And this is really, I don't know, you could take a lot of time. I know in some of the more personalized classes that we've taught, and even some one-on-one classes, you could take a lot of time in people understanding the difference between personality and character. It doesn't come in one shot. A person really has to study it. You can tell them what it is, You can give them examples. You can give them stories of things that have occurred to kind of help build it in their mind so that they'll remember. But it takes a little while. It really does. So character defines the way you treat yourself and the way you treat others. It dictates your moral and ethical beliefs. Let's read it again. Character is what helps you to determine what is right and wrong. Character defines the way you treat yourself and the way you treat others. It dictates your moral and ethical beliefs. That's what you have to have, is a strong moral foundation, and that's what's going to dictate these morals, these beliefs, and they all add up together. I'm going to take a page out of a book. Can we get the overhead? Okay. This is a page out of another Peaceful Solution book, which really describes it pretty well. And, of course, if you look at this house right here, you see it's just plain brick, plain roof, got a door and a fireplace, right? Well, character is our foundation. It's like a solid brick house. And then we can look at this next picture, and it says, what is personality? Well, just like the paint and the flowers make a house unique, so does personality make each person different from the next. Now, when I first saw this, it's in the workplace manual actually, but when I first saw this, that stood out so well. I mean, I thought it was a great picture to put in people's minds for the difference between, character and personality. Here's a solid house with a great foundation, and that's what character is. It's your foundation. It's what dictates your moral and ethical beliefs. It's what helps you determine what is right and wrong. And then you look at this one, and it's all, flowers and paint and, fancy windows and shutters and so forth and so on. And a person can take this strong foundation of a house, and they can take and pretty much make it however they want. They can paint it a different color. They can put different flowers out here and everything. Well, that's character and personality. It's an easy picture of it. Well, it's not so easy to recognize a person's character as it is to recognize their personality. Many times, true character is hidden behind a fictitious personality. Take the time to learn about a person's character regardless of their personality. For example, two people might appear to have similar personality traits but have very different character traits. True friendship should be based not only on compatible personalities, but more so on positive moral character. So be aware of not only the personality of someone you associate with, but his or her character as well. And, of course, looking at the illustration there, it says it's a fine line, that personality and character. He's kind of balancing, it's a balancing stick there while he's walking the line. It's a fine line. So we need to learn the difference so that we can understand how character defines the way that we treat ourselves and the way we treat others. So remember to go back and understand character completely, or as completely as you can, with what we've already been through, and then move on to personality. And so we've got some more coming. I'd like to go ahead and I'd like to thank you, first of all of you for being here tonight. And I'd like to now turn this over to Katan. Thank you.
All right. Everyone, please be seated. Thank you, David. All right. For those who are just joining us here, we are continuing on in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Certification course, and we are still in the character unit here, and we are still in Chapter 1 as we move forward, but nearing the end as we prepare to go into Chapter 2, near the end, and we're going to be picking up where David left off. He finished off on page 23, what is personality? And, that analogy that he gave there in regards to, comparing character and personality and a house and the pretty things that are outside the house. And you think about that, when people buy a house, right, the realtor will try to sell it as, well, this house has great bones, right? Great bones, great structure. Some 50 years ago, maybe a little bit less than that, 40 years or 50 years, they actually used to build houses with real 2x4s. I remember seeing a house that my father had, and it was built in the early 50s, and a lot of the wood was actual measured out as 2 inches by 4 inches. And the roofing structure was before they had sheathing. They actually used 2x6 planks to, I guess now you would call it sheath the roof. Same with the floor and things like that, So, a lot of the older houses, people tend to like to promote, the realtors do, or, builders might, and say, this house has great bones. It's got great foundation. You can add on to it. I mean, this thing will survive a hurricane, right? Because when you look at it from that point of view, it's much in the same way our character should be, right? And we're learning, and of course we're developing that right now, to have great structure, great bones, great foundation upon which we can build upon. Now, there's nothing wrong with adding paint or putting some bushes out in front if you want to. In fact, when people buy a house, especially if it's not a new house, and even if it is a new house, when they tend to move into the house, they put their own personal touches on it. And think about that with personality, okay? They put their own personal touches on it, the things that they like, that they feel great about, how they want to present themselves in their house to the neighborhood. And some people are really particular about how they like to present their house to the neighborhood, like I talked about last time with the, grass being cut a certain way, and want everything to match with the shutters and things of that nature, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's the same with what we're learning in this program here. We're all going to have personality differences. We're going to have similar personalities to other people, and like David was saying, these are the things that attract us to one another, or could possibly repel us from other people. But as we're going to learn here, we should get to know people and understand their character before we're so quick to dismiss them just merely based on their personality, okay? Just because somebody's quiet and they don't laugh and joke like you might, doesn't mean that they're a mean person, doesn't mean they're dishonest. They might be the very person that would, save you if you fell into the water and you couldn't swim or something like that. You have no idea, but unlike a book, or like a book, you don't know its contents until you open it and you start to read it, okay? So it's very important, and remember what we're learning here. We're learning to be teachers, and as teachers, we have to have a higher degree of understanding things than our students so that we can demonstrate these things in any given situation, and when the opportunity arises, and that's one of the things that's shown here in the procedures, as the opportunity arises, reiterate these character traits, reiterate the lessons that are taught, the concepts that are taught, and the activities that are given there. They're meant to stimulate those things in the student's mind, to put in their mind real-life scenarios where these traits could be demonstrated, okay? And don't ever think, for 1 minute to yourself that, okay, I've read this, I went through all these pages right now, I'm done with that, now let's move on to the next chapter. No, I can tell you this right now, and most of the teachers and other students who followed the Peaceful Solution, you can read this book 100 times, and there's always going to be something that stands out to you that didn't before, okay? Possibly it's the way that someone else presented it, or a question that was asked, or you received a greater understanding about a concept, and now you're looking at it with a different point of view. So don't ever dismiss this, once you read it, continue to go back and rehearse these things over and over. We've taught teachers many times as they prepare for the next school year, and they have what they call continuing education, right? Even teachers have to continually educate themselves so that they can maintain a certain status and ability to teach their students. And as teachers, we have to continually educate ourselves so that we can, as the times change, character concepts, these concepts of character and moral values, they don't necessarily change, but knowing how to apply positive character traits in different situations will enable you to better be able to facilitate your students. I remember when I was going to school for plumbing, and no, I'm not going to fix your toilet. You know, that was a long time ago. But when I was going to school for plumbing, I remember a definition that the teacher gave us at the very beginning, because we had to go over all these definitions in code and everything, and he said, it's going to seem kind of boring to you, but we have to go through this so you can understand what's to come later. And he said, you know, and regarding the definitions, if you understand the definition, you'll understand the application, all right? Because if you understand the purpose of this rule, right, if you understand what is needing to be accomplished with this rule, then it gives you a better idea. You're better equipped to know how to apply it in order to reach this certain outcome, okay? The outcome, the goal is to bring peace. The goal is to bring about respect in the disrespectful situation. The goal is to practice self-control. Whatever the concept is, or being honest, or whatever it is, if you understand, and that's what we're receiving through this, the understanding, the definition of these concepts, these moral concepts, these moral values, traits, so that in any given situation that we might encounter in our lives, we'll know how to apply it in order to reach this goal of bringing forth peace, okay? So just keep those things in mind, little tidbits there as teachers. Like I said, kind of being one step ahead there. So we're going to look, we're going to pick up on page 26, which is one of the activities there. But let's go back to the, I even had a paper saved right there, LP1G there in the procedures. And we're going to look at procedure 8 in the lesson plan there, procedure 8, and it says, stress that positive character guides our decisions to choose behaviors that demonstrate care and concern for others and ourselves. And that's, you know, one of the key words in there that you really have to take note in that is that word choose, okay? Decisions to choose behaviors, because we're always faced with with two options, right? And like character is placed into two categories. There's no in between. It's positive or it's negative. Okay, and even though most of us have a combination of the two, they only fall into one of those two categories. All right, there's no gray area when it comes to character. But we must make these decisions. We must choose behaviors that demonstrate care and concern for others and ourselves. Now, personality here, as we just got finished reading, on the other hand, is how we present ourselves to others. And of course, this part was read here. Choose students to read the article entitled Character versus Personality, found on page 25 of their handbooks. And then, of course, have students read the scenario on 26, which is what we're going to be starting here, picking up here with Kelly and Pam. And answer the questions, guide class feedback by discussing their answers, and stress that character dictates moral beliefs. Okay, this is what character dictates. It dictates, it governs moral beliefs, whereas personality is the primary means by which we socialize and seek acceptance. And as we learn, you know, this is the time period, these books here, and a lot of the young people enter into junior high, it is the time period where they are actually starting to seek acceptance outside the home, outside the family. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as parents and teachers, we need to be able to equip them with the tools that they need to not allow their desire to seek acceptance lead them down a negative path, okay? And this is the way you can do it, by equipping them with the education, the knowledge that will help them to make positive choices. So let's look at page 26 there. And of course, this is a scenario that an activity that you will go through with your students. And of course, these things, they go back and they reinforce the previous lessons, all right? And so they show both positive and negative, and then they give you options and they give you talking points that you can discuss with your students to, again, get the wheels a turning in their minds. So this following scenario here is about two friends who had similar personalities but very different characters. And it reads here, it says, Kelly and Pam are both in the band. Both girls enjoy pizza and chocolate ice cream. They share many other similar personality traits as well. For example, they both like to draw, swim, and watch educational shows. After band practice, they usually stop at the mini-mart on their way home. Now, on this particular day, they both bought drinks and a snack. Kelly received the correct change from the $5 bill she gave to the clerk, but Pamela received more change than she was supposed to. Now, after leaving the store, Pamela told Kelly that the clerk gave her back too much change. "You can't keep that money," Kelly said in a shocked whisper. "The clerk might get in trouble and lose her job. Plus, you'll be stealing if you keep it." "This isn't stealing," replied Pamela. "She gave it to me. It's not my fault she's careless." Now, Kelly did not convince Pamela that she was wrong, but she did show her true friendship by pointing out to Pamela what would be the right thing to do. Okay, and so we see here a couple of examples here. And this particular scenario has about 5 questions, and we won't go through all the questions and answers, but I'll just read the questions for you here. And again, this is to incite the student's mind to thinking about the lessons that they have learned up to this point. So what were some of Pamela and Kelly's shared personality traits? Okay, so now we're distinguishing their personality traits right here, which shows they like band, they enjoy pizza and ice cream and so forth. Number 2, did the two girls have similar character traits? And of course, no. One desired stealing. Okay, and so we're pointing out that negative, and that would be your opportunity right there to point out what particular trait that Kelly had. Okay, a negative trait. Now, does it mean Kelly was an all-out evil person? No. But in this scenario here, she didn't see anything wrong with stealing. She didn't value the rights of ownership because the money that she got did not belong to her. She was only supposed to get a certain amount back, which means the rest of it belonged to the store. And this is an opportunity for you to reiterate that to your students. And so just reading these last ones here, using your list of positive character traits, what traits best describe Kelly's, not Kelly, but I meant to say Pamela and the other one, Kelly's character. Number 4, what negative traits should Pamela eliminate from her character? And number 5, how do you think Kelly should handle the situation? And of course, this is a great opportunity to really get some feedback from your class and see if they're understanding the concepts and how they're being presented and how they can apply them when they're interacting with their peers. Because I guarantee you, situations are going to arise in the school day where they have the opportunity to practice these character traits, these lessons that they're learning. All right, so this here on page 27 is another activity here. It's just a poem, and of course, there are, when you order the Peaceful Solution, you do get accompaniments with it, CDs. Back in the day, it used to be a cassette. Before that, it was 8-track. No, I'm just joking. We didn't have 8 tracks. Didn't go back that far. But now it's a CD that you can get, and a lot of these narratives are on the CD so that you can play that to the classroom, and they get to hear the background noise and everything like that. It kind of makes the story come alive to them. And on page 27 here's a story, a poem about more than meets the eye. And it just simply says there, he seemed so kind, he seemed so nice, but his personality did not suffice. A positive character he did lack, smiling in your face while stabbing you in the back. And I'm sure that you can be thinking about different traits that are arising or being shown as we go through this. Almost hid the negative character, his smiles, jokes, and playful grin almost hid the negative character within. He spoke in a pleasant way, but his friends he did betray. With a devious mind and deceptive thought, he chose to steal what he hadn't bought. From someone he knew, who called him a friend, he stole from him again and again. Until one day his friend did say, "I don't want you here, now go away. You stole while you smiled at me. With your behavior, I disagree. I thought I knew you. I thought you were tight, but your negative character is just not right." Okay? And so then that's a poem there that you can go over with your students. Again, reiterating the points that were covered in the previous pages. So let's look over here to page 28. Page 28. Let's see here. before we go there, hold your place there. We'll look back to LP1G here as we move forward. Yeah. All right. Kind of skipped that. Didn't mean to. On procedure 9 there, it says, explain to students that there are no guarantees that because two people share similar personality traits, that they will have the same values and character traits, okay? Because both of you like, an example with Kelly and Pam, swimming or going to the garden and picking fruits or vegetables or whatever your personality traits that you both have doesn't guarantee that you'll have the same values and character traits. Now, guide class discussion by asking the following questions. What are the dangers or drawbacks of choosing friends based on personality? And of course, the answers would vary based on what the children are bringing forth. Now, if they do bring forth something that is slightly different than what you've taught, then, of course, encourage them because they are thinking, right? They are thinking about the lesson, and kindly redirect them back to what was shown in the book in regards to the difference between personality and character. One thing you never want to do is shoot your students down, okay? If they're participating and they possibly give a wrong answer, don't shoot them down, don't make them feel bad. Because what you'll find in that situation is that they won't want to answer anymore. They kind of shut down. They won't want to participate, and they might very well block the information that's coming to them, and that could be detrimental to both them and the class in general. So always encourage them. Always encourage them. Tell them they're on the right track, but keep this in mind also, okay? Make them feel that they're accomplishing, they're growing as they go through this program. Be there. What are the dangers of continuing a friendship with someone who exhibits negative character traits but has an appealing personality? And of course, the answers will vary with that as well. Now look down here at the bottom, or second from the bottom. It says, allow students to listen to the poem, and that was in regards to, you could play it on the CD if you do have that available, or you could just read it like we did, or, even choose a student to read the poem as well. More than meets the eye, which we just read on page 27 of their handbooks. Stress that it is important to take time to take the time to know someone in order to determine his or her character. And then conclude lesson by encouraging students to appreciate and value the positive character and personality traits within themselves and others. Remind them that who we are depends more upon our character than our personality, and that we must be persistent in developing positive character traits. Okay, so that's pretty much what you have there as far as your lesson plan procedures. But of course, if you notice, we still have a little bit more to go after that. So from there, if you turn over to page 28, which I had you hold your place there, and we're going to look at food for thought. So what we're getting here is kind of a recap at the end of the lesson. We start to recap and refresh the things that were learned at the very beginning all the way to the end of the lesson for the student, because it's, typically it's kind of easy to forget the things you learned at the very beginning unless you go back and rehearse it again. People tend to remember the last 3 things that they heard for the most part. And that's not a general statement. That's just kind of, how a lot of people are, because that's the thing that's right there in front of them. So this food for thought here is, you see a couple little fruits in the bowl there, and it gives some sayings. It says, he is the life of the party. Okay, there's a personality trait, could be outgoing, whatever it is that makes him the life of the party, but don't leave your wallet lying around. Okay, we've got a negative trait there being displayed of dishonest, untrustworthy. There's another one there where the pair is. It says, someone can seem stuck up because she is shy. Well, that's a personality trait. But if you get to know her, you will find a compassionate person. Okay, positive character trait there. If you are really popular at school, but go home and disrespect your parents, disrespect, there's another negative character trait. Your parents, what does that say about your character? Okay, and remember, something to keep in mind in regards to, and we're getting ready to cover a little bit of it here, these character traits, even though you keep in mind when you're interacting with certain people, you're going to interact with your friends a little bit differently than you interact with your parents or a teacher or an adult or something like that. People tend to interact with police officers a little bit different than they interact with other people. But one thing you want to keep in mind is you want to keep consistent in regards to the practicing of the moral values, of your moral values. In other words, if you're honest at home with your parents and your family, you want to be honest when you're amongst your friends. You want to be honest when you're in the workplace. You want to be consistent in demonstrating these positive character traits. And like we covered before, when you internalize these things, then this makes you a person of integrity. So never put down the practicing or the displaying, the upholding of positive character just because you're in an environment where it might not seem the popular thing to do. Remember what we covered about the road less traveled. So let's look at page 29 there, and it's talking about a few things. Here are a few things to think about. And this goes over some character traits here that we'll cover here before we get to, we won't get all the way to the end here, but we'll get started here. And we have discipline here, being disciplined. And that's using self-control to behave in a proper way. Using self-control to behave in a proper way. And the key there is proper way, because some people will use self-control or discipline to retaliate against somebody else. Oh, he just better wait. I'm going to get him. Well, I can't do it right now. Too many people are watching, but I'll get him. The key is a proper way. Using self-control to behave in a proper way. And if you remember what was covered on self-control on page 15, at the bottom of number 9, it says, not yielding to impulsive thoughts and actions. Okay? So remember, the outcome of self-control is making a right choice. Right? And that right choice is one that doesn't bring harm to ourselves, others, and the environment. So being disciplined, we can never use this trait of discipline to bring about a negative result. That's something that, as teachers, we should always work to eliminate. Eliminate the negative option, when it comes to the developing and practicing of positive character. Yes, we have to acknowledge that it's there because it's always there. The potential to do the wrong thing is always there. But for us, we should never look at it as an option. Well, I could punch him in the face, right? No, we should never look at a negative choice as an option, right? We should always look to finding a peaceful solution to every situation that we're in. And of course, this ties back into being a person of integrity and consistently practicing these moral values that we talked about very early on in the lesson here. For example, you want to get straight A's this semester, so you decide to cut out all other after-school activities and concentrate only on studying, bringing about a positive result from that person's discipline. Compassionate, to care about the needs of others. And in caring about the needs of others, and this is a very concise definition here, but another part of the definition of compassion is also to relieve the person of that suffering. If they're suffering in some way, you see that suffering, you care about them, and you also would like to find a way to relieve them of that suffering. Now, this doesn't always necessarily mean that you get in there and do something. It might merely be pointing it out to a teacher or a parent or a guidance counselor or something, that this person is going through a difficult time and I really think that they need some help. As we talked about at the very beginning, the previous teacher says, there's many resources in the schools. We direct them to the guidance counselor because that is what their job is, okay? And the teachers, sometimes they're not comfortable about dealing with certain things, but they can direct the student to the guidance counselor so that they can find some relief or some help in dealing with whatever situation that they might be going through. So the example here is if you see that someone feels down or sad, you care enough to try and help. For example, your friend lost her wallet, you forgo your plans and help her look for it. Okay, and so the next 2 points there is responsible and reliable. Responsible and reliable. And it is always doing what is necessary to complete the task. Okay, always doing what is necessary to complete the task, consistently doing that. And this is, of course, will enable you to develop this positive character trait, and it actually becomes all these things can become a part of your reputation when you display them day in and day out. It also means can be depended on, okay? For example, your parents have an emergency and must leave the house urgently. They are not worried about leaving you with your younger siblings because they know they can depend on you to care for them while they are gone, okay? A lot of young people will take the opportunity when parents are gone and they'll throw a party. And the parents will come back and there'll be trash all over the place, noodles on the ceiling, and all types of things. And, of course, they'll prove to the parent at that time that they can't be trusted to be left at home. And it takes a while to rebuild that trust again. But when you're responsible and reliable, a parent, a teacher, a supervisor, whoever it is, they say they can leave you. You're in great hands. Next point there is merciful. To show leniency or tolerance even when others have behaved in a manner that deserves a consequence. For example, your brother carelessly left his skates on the steps, and not realizing they were there, you trip and fall. Your mother was ready to ground him for a week, but instead you say, "Mom, I'm all right. I know he didn't mean it. Possibly, or now now that he sees how dangerous it is, he'll remember to put them away." So she relents from grounding him. And I picture the cloud receding from the mother's head and the lightning bolt going away, No. But in regards to being merciful, you should never, like we said before, never compromise. I was thinking about another word there. Compromise. Never compromise, your positive values, your moral values in regards to displaying this mercy or this tolerance. Okay, don't let that be confused with, he's my best friend and he really wants to do something immoral. He really, really wants to steal this thing, and I'm telling him no. Well, I'll be merciful. I will allow it. Go ahead and steal it. No, you never compromise positive moral values in regards to anything. It doesn't matter if your friend is pulling out all the stops and all the guilt trips and everything that, if you're my friend, you let me do this off, if you were brother, I did this for you. No, uphold those positive moral values, okay? And like I said, like the book says, it's not easy. It might be embarrassing. You might actually lose a friend as a result of it. Were they really your friend if they would try to force you to do something that's immoral? No, you have to stand on what you've proven to be morally correct. Next point there is courageous, and it is the act of doing what needs to be done even when you're afraid. Of course, remember, these things are referring to doing the right thing, right? Doing the right thing. It's not courageous to rob a bank in daylight, broad daylight, without a mask. Well, that guy was courageous. No, doing what needs to be done even when you're afraid, and the outcome of that thing that you're doing will lead to a benefit, not to a consequence, right? Not for you or the people that you're involved with or who could be affected by your actions. The act of doing what needs to be done even when you are afraid. And I believe most of us have run into situations or come across situations where we were afraid to do something. We didn't know possibly what the outcome was, or we've never done it before. It was the first time we did it, but we went on ahead and did it. And then afterwards we realized, well, that really wasn't that bad, right? For example, the school bully is picking on a classmate that is much smaller than he is. Even though you are afraid he will turn his negative attention upon you, you stand up and say in a firm voice, "If you don't stop, I'll get the principal." Okay? And in doing so, hopefully intervening to prevent that person from being bullied or harmed, they're doing something that does not bring harm to themselves or others. And the last one there is envious, and that is to resent what someone has while at the same time wanting what they possess, right? Not, being, I don't like the fact that you have this, brand new pack of pencils, but as soon as I get the opportunity, I'm going to try to take them, okay? That's being envious. It says, an envious person is also here unthankful, not appreciative of the things that they have. They only look at the things that they don't have. And they look at the things that other people have and just desire that they had those things too. Okay? And people who are envious sometimes they act impulsively and don't practice self-control when it comes to acquiring the things that they want. Okay? And this can be very dangerous. This is, of course, negative character. You know, it leads to stealing, it leads to conflicts, mistrust, and so forth. Envy can lead to hate, jealousy, anger, and hostility. Bob was envious of Daniel because he was popular and athletic. Bob wanted to be popular as well, so he began spreading rumors, vicious rumors, about Daniel. And yeah, there's two ways you can be popular. You can be popular in a negative way. You can be popular in a positive way. You know, our goal is not really to seek to be popular, but to seek to be moral, right? To seek to be people of integrity, people who make the right choice in any situation. Okay, and if that gains you popularity because you're doing the right thing, well, that's fine, you know, but you shouldn't just seek it for popularity, okay? So many times people have sought popularity and have done some very immoral things on their quote-unquote rise to fame. Well, at the bottom there in the box there, at the bottom of page 29, it says, observing someone's actions reveals his or her true character. Okay, and that is according to the peaceful solution there. So we're going to stop there on page 29, and we'll pick up next class as we wrap it up with what I have learned. And next class will be held 12:20, Sunday 12:20 at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you very much, and you have a wonderful evening.